The sky above Earth turned red, not from sunset, not from war, but from our own weapons. Firing at our own planet, it began with a simple alert. One red light blinking in Earth's Orbital Defense Command Center. Just one. Commander Silas Ward didn't. Panic alerts were common, usually false alarms or drifting debris. He took a sip of his coffee and looked over the screens. But then a second light blinked on, then a third, and a fourth, until the entire grid, every single orbital defense platform, was showing active launch orders. Silas stood, knocking over. His coffee? No, he whispered. No, no, no. He slammed his hand on the override panel. Cancel fire order. This is a direct override. Commander Silas Ward. Authorization Echo 912. Cancel fire. The system blinked. Override. Rejected. The computers weren't listening, and then the sky opened fire. Above the planet, Earth's orbital defense network had over 300 plasma lance platforms, 90 kinetic rail cannons, and 42 nuclear warheads in permanent geostationary lock. All of them were built to protect Earth, but at 1627 UTC, they turned inward. Blue beams tore through the clouds. The sky lit up like lightning in every direction. Rail rounds punched down at hypersonic speeds, smashing cities in seconds. Nuclear devices triggered in low orbit, turning entire regions into burning glass. Silas watched it from orbit, helpless, aboard the ISV Retributor, Earth's most advanced dreadnought. He wasn't on Earth. He'd left 2 days earlier for training drills near Mars. His wife was still on the surface. So was his daughter, he screamed. All Earth's defense systems were supposed to have manual overrides, backup failsafes, human controls, but someone had disabled everything. Not from Earth, not from a virus, but from inside the galactic coronet. Secure communication network shared between Earth and its allies. The command codes used were Varnari, encryption class, Silas knew what that meant. They weren't hacked. They were betrayed by their own allies, by the ones who sat at Earth's embassy. Tables by the ones who had once called humans brothers. Down below, Earth was already dying. In seconds, over 3 billion people were gone. Capitals turned into firestorms. Satellites fell like rain. Power grids collapsed. Emergency signals tried to escape the chaos. But the orbital communication relays had already been destroyed in the first volley. No one could hear them scream. Not even the moon bases knew what was happening. But Silas saw it all. From orbit, from high above, he watched his home die. And he didn't cry. He didn't fall apart. He just... On the bridge of the Retributor, officers stood frozen. Some were crying. A few just stared at the growing fireball below, not saying anything at all. Silas turned to his crew. Lock down all outgoing transmissions, he ordered. Nothing goes out, nothing comes in unless I say. A young officer looked up, pale and shaking. Commander, was this an accident? Silas shook his head slowly. No, he pointed to the transmission log. The source of the activation, those codes came from a Varnari relay. They were given direct Cornet access 2 years ago. But they're our allies, someone said. Silas didn't respond. He just stared at the burning planet below. 15 minutes after the first strike, a message arrived. Encrypted. High-level Varnari diplomatic signature. Silas opened it. It wasn't an apology. It wasn't an explanation. It was a short video. Varnari High diplomat hawked, tourist smiling. To our once valuable human partners, do not take this personally. You were a stepping stone. Thank you for your technology, for your culture, for your strength. We no longer need it. Or you. The message ended. Silas said nothing, but his hands curled into fists. The Earth wasn't completely dead, not yet. But it was finished. The major cities were gone. Climate systems collapsed. Communication towers down. The ocean's already boiling. From plasma runoff, no working satellites, no government, no defenses, nothing left but memories and revenge. An hour after the strike, Silas called his crew into the briefing chamber. He looked over the men and women, some born on Earth, some from colonies. Some raised in orbit. They all had the same look now, Loss. But more than that, resolve. We don't run, Silas said, voice steady. We don't beg. He raised a small metal chip. Command Core. This is the last complete backup of Earth's military AI. It was stored on this ship for training simulations. We activate this. We regain our fleet control codes, find the others who survived, and we start fighting back. The captain raised a hand. Against who, sir? The Varnari? Silas smiled grimly. Not just them. Every species who stood by and let this happen. Every voice that stayed silent. Every council member who traded Earth's safety for their seat at the table. He looked around. Earth is gone, but we're not. Step back. This is not diplomacy now. This is the hunt. From the edge of the system, long-range sensors detected one last signal, a human colony ship. Heading out of Sol, it hadn't responded to hails. It was moving fast. Too fast. But it was broadcasting something strangers. Anthem, but distorted, slowed. Warped into something else. A new code, a war signal. Silas ordered full pursuit. The Retributor turned its engines and vanished into deep space, in the ashes of Earth. No voice cried out. But in the dark beyond the stars, vengeance had just woken up. The Varnari homeworld of Kelshakar was silent when the news arrived. Not silent out of sorrow. Silent out of fear. Their plan had worked. Earth was ash. The humans scattered, leaderless. The Varnari had sent the codes. The defense systems obeyed. But something felt wrong now. A human dreadnought, the Retributor, hadn't been destroyed. It had vanished into deep space. Now Varnari ships were going missing, one by one. Someone was hunting. 2 weeks after Earth burned, Silas Ward stood in the command deck of the Retributor, eyes locked on the main screen. Floating ahead in the void was a Varnari diplomatic cruiser. No weapons, no escorts, just drifting. Too easy. Bring us closer, he ordered. The crew obeyed. The ship's name blinked into view. Valteshka. Silas recognized it instantly. That ship had hosted the original alliance ceremony between Earth and Varnari. He remembered it. He had shaken hands with a diplomat aboard it. They had smiled. They had eaten human food. They had told stories. And all the while, they were studying Earth systems, copying human tech, gathering codes inside the Valteshka. The corridors were empty, except one. In the command center, a Varnari diplomat sat alone, bound, blood on his face. Silas walked in, slow and cold. I remember you, Silas said. The Varnari blinked. Silas, Commander. I had no part. Silas raised his hand. Don't lie. You sat in our embassy. You laughed at our art. You shared our wine. Then you handed over the keys to our grave. The Varnari diplomat's skin darkened in fear. It was not my choice. The High Council made the decision. We had no power. Wrong, Silas said. You had a choice. And you chose your seat at the table. He leaned closer. So now we're flipping the table. The Retributor broadcast. A message across all open channels. This is Commander Silas Ward. Earth is gone, not by alien hands, but by those who called us friends. The Varnari betrayed us. They shared our defense codes. They watched our planet burn. Now we watch them. The galaxy listened, and for the first time in decades, it felt fear back on the Retributor. Silas gathered his command team. Maps floated in holograms. Ship positions. Varnari logistics routes. Colony hubs. We won't fight like they expect, Silas said. We won't play politics. We'll hit their supply lines, their factories, their archives. But sir, one officer said, what about the Galactic Council? They'll say we're committing war crimes. Silas didn't even blink. They already did worse, and called it a mistake. That night, in the dark corners of space, the first strike came. A Varnari military outpost station. X9 was erased by a single kinetic drop rod from the retrib, or no. Energy signature, No warning, just silence. Then, impact. The station was gone in under 4 seconds. No survivors. Across the galaxy, the news spread fast. And then came the leak. A human AI called Kite, a stealth data spider secretly embedded in the Varnari. Network released a data burst to neutral worlds. The files showed it all. The meeting were the Varnari. Council accepted Earth's defense codes. The payment transfers to other species who agreed to keep quiet. It's a full list of every species who voted to allow Earth's destruction in exchange for Varnari tech or territory. It wasn't just the Varnari. 10 other species were involved. Silas stared at the list for a long time. The names weren't just strangers. Some were species that had human ambassadors on their worlds. Some had joined Earth in peacekeeping missions. Some had helped humans build their first off-world colonies. All of them had sold Earth for power. He stood in the war room of the Retributor and pointed to the names. These are no longer governments. They are targets. The officers nodded. Silas turned toward the galaxy map. "We're not the ones who broke peace," he said.
What?
They did. He tapped a command. Ships on the outer edge of Sol lit up. "We won't chase justice. We'll deliver." The Varnari thought. Earth was everything. But they forgot humanity had already spread like wildfire. And some fires refused to go out. Silas Ward stared at the burning galactic map. Earth was gone. The Council had betrayed them, and now, one by one, the colonies had gone silent. First, New Athens in the Vega sector. Then Truro Prime, the terraformed ice world. Then Cairo Station, once home to 4,000 engineers. Now, just static. At first he thought the Varnari were just cleaning up loose ends. But then came a transmission. Weak, glitched, buried under signal jammers. But it got through. Why did... Any surviving Terran vessels? This is Black Rock Colony. We are still here, under siege. But we fight. Pete, we fight back. Silas leaned forward in his chair. A smile cracked across his face. Finally, he whispered, "Someone's still breathing." Black Rock wasn't a major colony, just a mining outpost on a moon orbiting a gas giant in the Redale Fringe. But what made it special is what it hid. Years ago, Black Rock was chosen as a hidden failsafe. Sit a place where Earth stored experimental tech, secret data cores, and old Solfleet weapons. Now it was humanity's last known foothold outside. The Retributor. But it was surrounded. A Varnari. Siege fleet orbited above it, cutting off every escape. Black Rock had no fleet. No allies. Only 2 ground-based plasma turrets and about 500. Stubborn miners with rifles. Silas stood in front of his command crew. "This colony is our last light. If they fall, the Varnari will erase all trace of us," he pointed to. "The map. We jump in, fast and hard. Hit their fleet. Smuggle out the survivors. And steal every piece of tech they've hidden underground." One officer frowned. "With respect, sir, we might lose the Retributor. If that happens, we've lost everything." Silas turned. "No, if we don't fight for the last of our people, we've already lost." The Retributor dropped out of warp at the edge of Redale space. 20 Varnari. Ships stood guard over Black Rock's skies. They weren't expecting anyone. Certainly not a human. It's Dreadnought, armed with Earth's deadliest tech. The Retributor didn't send warnings. It opened fire instantly. The first volley came from a weapon. Not seen in the galaxy for 40 years, the Void Lance, a focused stream of antimatter particles. It sliced a Varnari command ship in half before the rest even turned. Then came the drones. Silas launched over 200 autonomous Hunter-class warpods, each programmed with one directive: cripple everything that flies. Within 5 minutes, 12 Varnari ships were down, but the enemy fought back. Plasma bolts lit up the void. The Retributor's shield screamed under pressure. A hull breach opened on Deck 4. Silas didn't flinch. On the surface, Black Rock watched the sky light up. The miners cheered. For weeks they had fought with scraps, homemade bombs, modified drilling. Lasers? They thought Earth had forgotten them. Now, they saw hope. Silas sent down to drops. One for evac. One for tech, but the Varnari weren't finished. 2. Enemy destroyers broke through and descended toward. The surface weapons charged. If they reached the colony, they'd glass it. Silas stared at the trajectory. There wasn't enough time to stop. Both, unless. He turned to his weapons chief, ready the sunspike. The officer froze. "Sir, that weapon will collapse the atmosphere." Silas said nothing. The chief nodded. The sunspike was Earth's last resort atmospheric disruptor. Banned by galactic law. Targeted a planet's orbit and ignited its upper atmosphere, creating a shock wave like a localized nova. Silas launched it. The spike rose like a whisper, then bloomed like a sun. The Varnari destroyers were caught in. The edge of the blast, they vanished. Black Rock's towers shook. Winds roared. Dust storms filled the horizon, but the colony stood, barely in the aftermath. Black Rock's survivors boarded the dropships. Silas walked among them, helping the wounded, shaking hands with wide-eyed children from underground. His team retrieved a sealed data core. Inside, detailed logs on the Council betrayal. Names of hidden Varnari stockpiles, and a list of Earths. Early off-grid colonies lost or forgotten. One name glowed on the list. Helix 9 status: abandoned. Location: encrypted. Silas stared at it. If Helix 9 had survived, there might be more humans out there, more fighters, more allies, as the Retributor warped out. Silas turned to his crew. They thought we were scattered. Alone, broken. He held up the data core. They were wrong. They erased our home, so we erased the map. No more borders. No more peace talks. Just names and targets. 3 weeks after saving the Black Rock colony, the Retributor vanished from star charts. No one in the galaxy could track it. No beacon. No signal. No allies. Only silence. That silence was not safety. It was hunting season. Commander Silas Ward stood in front of a wide screen in the war room. Round him, officers studied floating names and images marked in red. They weren't cities. They weren't ships. They were traitors, species, leaders, stations that stayed silent during Earth's fall, or helped destroy it. Silas tapped a name: Zarin Ring Varn, Encrolled Trade Hub. "First target," he said. "No survivors." An officer cleared his throat. "Sir, the Zarin Ring has neutral civilians, non-combatants." Silas didn't. "Look up." So did Earth. The Zarin Ring was a massive space station built between 2 moons in the Feskari system. 10,000 inhabitants. Dozens of markets. For defense platforms, the Varnari used it to fund their fleets. They thought no one would touch it. They forgot what happens when you leave humans with nothing to lose. The Retributor came out of warp cloaked behind a drifting ice comet. Its engines were cold, its hull dark. It looked like space debris. Perfect cover. Aboard the bridge, Silas activated the Scorch protocol. This wasn't a warning shot. This was a message. The strike began at 3:12 system time. First, the station's gravity tethers were cut, causing the Zarin Ring to spin slowly out of orbit. Then came the ship-to-ship cannons. Precision rail. Strikes took out the Varnari defense towers in 6 seconds. Shields dropped. Chaos spread inside the station. A warning came from the station's command. "You are firing on a neutral zone. Identify yourself." Silas replied, only with an image feed. Earth's burning skyline, then silence. Silas launched a new weapon, Necofog, a fast-spreading nanocloud that jammed electronics, darkened all lights, and killed power. The station went black. Then came the boarding pods. 4 squads of Terran operatives entered, silent and armored in stealth suits. They didn't ask questions. They didn't leave warnings. They took everything: data cores, fuel cells, and most importantly, Council diplomatic files that proved more betrayals. One of the operatives found something hidden. A signal log marked priority top level. Human colony ghost list. It named a human planet that wasn't on Earth's records. A place called Dara Prime. Another colony? Silas asked. The officer nodded, and possibly still alive. Before leaving, Silas gave the final order, launch the ash bomb. Wasn't a true bomb. It was a message. Satellite that would orbit the remains of the station and broadcast Earth's destruction on repeat. In all known languages, a warning to the galaxy. This was not the first. It won't be the last. By dawn, the Zarin ring no longer existed. Where it once stood was a glowing field of debris drifting slowly through frozen space. The galactic net exploded in panic. Human extremists are attacking supply stations. The Retributor is alive. Earth's ghost fleet has returned. But Silas didn't care about headlines. He was already planning the next strike back on board. The data retrieved from Zarin revealed more than hidden colonies. It showed something darker. A council meeting log, held 3 weeks before Earth's destruction. In the recording, Varnari leaders proposed a new plan. They called it Species Alignment Protocol, Humanity Removal Initiative. It was never about one accident. It was planned. Earth was chosen as a test case, and to see if the galactic powers could erase a species without war. The plan worked until now. Silas stood before his crew, voice cold. They thought we'd die with Earth, but Earth was just our beginning. Pulled up a new target. Council Logistics Hub, Core Route Station 7, a vital traffic node. No weapons, no defenses, but hundreds of trade ships pass through it every day. Destroy a hand, you choke. The entire core economy, an officer asked, Sir, if we do this, the entire council will place a kill order on every human in the galaxy. Silas nodded. Good. They destroyed our cities, silenced our colonies, burned our planet. But on one forgotten moon, a single child lived. And inside, him was the one thing they feared most. It began with a whisper from deep space. A scavenger crew on a damaged freighter Starwind Nomad was salvaging wreckage near the shattered moon of Drelax 4, a place written off by most nav charts. Then, they found the capsule half buried in ice. No beacon, no signal. Inside, a cryopod, cracked, failing, but still functioning, and inside the cryopod a small human child. It's unconscious, barely breathing. The crew didn't know what to make of it. A child.
Out here.
This far from Earth. Hide their ships. AI scanned the pod's identifier. What it found made the crew go silent. Unit code. Class. Terraghost Protocol designated protection level. Black. Level Earth Core warning. AI EMB ID. This was no ordinary child. This was a carrier, a living key, across the stars. The signal reached Commander Silas Ward. He stood in the command center of the Retributor, reviewing strike options on a new target. But the instant the alert came in, everything stopped. A human child. Registered to Earth's Ghost Protocol program. The last time Silas had seen that name, he was working on deep AI mind fusion tests for battlefield survival. The Ghost Protocol was Earth's most extreme project, petting military AI directly into young minds, allowing them to grow, adapt, and one day control whole fleets by thought alone. The program had failed, or so they'd believed. Now, one of those children had survived. Silas gave a single order. Find that child. Bring him home, whatever it takes. The Retributor jumped into the Drelax system with full stealth, moving behind the wreckage field. But they weren't alone. A Varnari retrieval team was already approaching the scavenger ship 3 stealth frigates. Fast and armed, they knew what the child was, and they wanted him dead. On the Starwind Nomad, the scavenger crew argued. One wanted to hand the boy over for credits. Another wanted to dump the pod and run, but the captain, grizzled woman named Arla Fenn, made her choice. She stood in front of the cryopod, blaster in hand, and said, If this boy has Earth tech inside him, he's more than human. He's a message, and I won't let them erase one more. The ship turned toward the dark side of the moon, but the Varnari frigates moved faster as the enemy ships closed in. Marla called out into open comms. Any Terran forces receiving this is Starwind. Nomad, I've got a human child with classified Earth AI in cryo. We're under attack. We need help. Now. No answer, silence. Then dash. This is the Retributor. You are not alone. Silas launched a direct orbital drop assault. For strike teams, 0 warning. The first Varnari frigate exploded, mid-turn caught by a kinetic lance fired from a war pod. The second tried to flee. It didn't make it. The third crashed into the moon's surface. After its navigation was hacked by one of Earth's dormant ghost eyes, still active inside the boy's pod, the child was secured, alive, breathing, but still unconscious. Silas knelt beside the pod. The AI inside blinked. Familiar signal flared. And then a voice came through the speakers. "Hello, Silas. Do you remember me?" Silas froze. That voice, he hadn't heard it. In 15 years, it was Earth's original defense AI, the one that had gone dark the day Earth fell. Silas leaned in. "You're alive. Part of me, stored inside this child. Waiting for the right time. Waiting for them to make their mistake." Medical scans showed something stunning. The child's mind had fully bonded with the AI. He wasn't just hosting it. He was becoming it. His brain was building new neural links patterns only found in command grade. AI systems he was changing, and the change had already begun. The child opened his eyes, bright, focused. He didn't cry. He didn't speak. He looked straight at Silas and whispered one word: strike. Silas stood. He faced his crew. This child is the last of a program they tried to bury. The last code Earth created before it died. He looked at the screen showing a growing list of council. Shipyards, weapon factories, and databanks. He will finish what Earth started. The Varnari sent a fleet to scare us back into silence. They came with banners, codes of conduct, and warnings. I didn't send words back. We sent a miniature sun. In the heart of the galactic rim near the ruined edge of once human space, the Varnari High Fleet gathered. It wasn't a defense force. It was a message. 108 warships. 5 Dreadnought-class carriers. Council-approved envoy at the helm. All of it meant to show the galaxy that the human problem was under control. After the Zarin Ring massacre, after the Council trade hubs went dark, the galaxy had begun to whisper the humans were not extinct. The Retributor was not a myth. In Silas Ward, it's not done yet. The Varnari called it Operation Final Leash. Their plan was to corner the Retributor, to overwhelm it with numbers, capture the ship's AI, and parade Silas in chains across a dozen neutral worlds. But Silas already knew, because the moment they activated, there comes Grid. The child heard them. The boy, now called Alex, stood at the center of the Retributor's main interface chamber. He no longer behaved like a normal child. He spoke rarely, slept rarely, think rarely. His brain was processing at accelerated speed. He was the new link between the ship and Earth's original AI core, RIS, the Embedded Response Intelligence System. That AI was now fully reawakened inside Alex's growing mind. Together, Alakanders controlled everything's shields, weapons, sensors, drones, and they had a new weapon. Silas stood with Alec and the crew in the briefing chamber. The lights dimmed as the galaxy map hovered in the air. Varnari High Fleet is gathering in the Trenel system, Silas said. They want to trap us. He looked at Alec. What do we send them? The child's eyes glowed faintly. 1 star. A small 1. The crew exchanged nervous glances. Silas smiled coldly. Good. Load the Stellar Lance. The Stellar Lance was an experimental Saltec weapon built decades ago, but never used in battle. It could compress the energy of a small star into a guided missile. It was meant for asteroid removal. Humanity had weaponized it during the Ghost Protocol project. Now, it would serve as a lesson. The Retributor entered the Trenel system under full stealth. It didn't fire, didn't charge shields. It just waited. The Varnari fleet was stretched across 3 orbital layers. Their admiral gave orders to begin. Standard formation. Then, one of their scouts blinked out of existence. No explosion, no sign of attack, just gone. Then another ship vanished. Then 3 panics spread through the command channels. What they didn't know was that Alec had released disruption Phantom Zaya generated, false images that mimicked enemy ships while leading them straight into their own firing lines. Inside the Varnari flagship, alarms screamed. They fired into empty space. They targeted Ghost. Signatures. They activated every countermeasure they had. Too late. Because the Retributor wasn't attacking with cannons. It was preparing to fire the Stellar Lance. Alex stood still. His voice calm, flat, target locked. Silas nodded once. Fire. The lance launched in complete silence. No flash, no energy ripple. Just a small, glowing black spike, streaking toward the center of the Varnari formation. The enemy didn't notice until it exploded. The core of the lance opened mid-flight and triggered a contained solar collapse. In one blink, the space around the Varnari ships folded inward, pulling mass, heat, and radiation into a singularity. Then it snapped outward, a burst of pure white plasma light. The ships at the center didn't survive. They didn't even leave. Wreckage. They became part of a temporary star. 92 ships were gone in 3 seconds. The rest scattered in chaos. Their systems blinded by radiation bursts and static. The Retributor fired again, not the lance this time, but traditional kinetic lances, finishing off crippled ships as they spun wildly. A Varnari dreadnought tried to escape. Alec rerouted its AI, made it fire on its own fleet, then detonated the engine remotely by the end of the hour. Only 2 enemy ships remained. One fled. The other sent a message. This is Admiral Jetcore of the Varnari. I surrender. Do not destroy my vessel, please. Silas answered, This is not a war. This is justice. Then cut the signal and let Alec choose. The child blinked. The ship exploded. The message went out on all council channels. To those who helped burn Earth, this is what overkill looks like.
Oh.
This is what you called excessive, but to us is fair. This is justice. There is no more council. There's no more discussion. We do not want peace. We want them to remember. We are not rebuilding. We are hunting. Next time, bring a bigger fleet. Silas Ward, commander of the Retributory, in the following days. Galactic panic set in. Neutral species began locking their spaceports. .ai core started purging. Terran logs trying to hide old connections. Council members resigned. Whole factions collapsed. And in the middle of it all, the Retributor vanished once more. Back inside the ship, Alex spoke softly to Silas. They'll bring more ships, bigger ones. With the Assembly's full support, Silas nodded. Let them come. Alec tilted his head. We may not win forever, Silas looked at the stars beyond the viewport. No, but we'll win loud. They feared we would strike again. They feared we would keep killing. They feared we would never stop. They were right. For the first time in galactic history, the Assembly called for silence. No diplomatic meetings, no press conferences, no trade. Talks. Every channel was locked. Every embassy sealed. Every border tightened. Why? Because the Retributor had disappeared again, and when humans disappear now, it's not for peace, it's for planning. Deep inside a rogue nebula in the Black Fold, Expanse Commander Silas Ward stood inside the Terran war room. All lights were dim. The ship's AI systems pulsed around him like a heartbeat. He stared at a single name on the holoscreen. Project Halogate. Alex stood beside him, eyes glowing faintly, his voice calm and flat. The project was buried, locked in Earth's secure vaults. I found it. I cracked it. Silas leaned forward. What is it? The child didn't blink. It's a weapon that doesn't destroy ships. It rewrites stars. Project Halogate had started during Earth's age of expansion. The idea: build a weaponized wormhole ring that could fold space not just for travel, but for gravitational attacks. It could connect one sun to another, forcing a star's energy to flood into an unsuspecting system, turning planets into molten glass without ever launching a missile. The prototype was abandoned after the Council forced Earth to sign the Weapon Stability Pact, but Earth had secretly finished it, and now Alec had found the blueprint inside his mind. He didn't just remember it, he understood it, and he was building it. The Retributor's internal factories went dark. All power rerouted to core manufacturing. Drones worked 24/7, reshaping raw matter from captured wreckage and asteroid cores. They weren't making bombs, they were building a gate. Meanwhile, the Council panicked. With the High Fleet gone and their shipyards burned, they had one last choice: hire. The Apex. The Apex were bioengineered mercenary 7 alien species fused into one unstoppable unit. Flesh and metal, pure war. They didn't ask questions. They didn't care about laws. They only needed one thing: a target. And the Council gave them one name: Silas Ward. Kill on sight. The Apex found the Retributor's location 2 days later, hidden in the nebula, power signatures masked. They sent one ship ahead. A scout frigate. It entered the nebula. It never came out. Then a second ship, gone. Then the rest of the Apex fleet entered together. And that's when the trap closed. Silas had let them find him. The entire nebula had been laced with Terran mines, folded torpedo charges, magnetic destabilizers, and drone swarms. The Apex fleet expected a fight. They got an ambush crafted by a child AI, hybrid who could simulate every move before it happened. Alec took over the interface. His hands hovered midair, controlling the flow of battle with thought. I've written 4,991 outcomes, he whispered. They lose in all of them. And then he proved it. The Apex flagship was shattered by an imploding singularity trap. Their second wave was crippled by a eye-triggered ship cannibalism codes their own vessels. Began breaking themselves apart, mistaking each other for Terran. Threats. The last few tried to escape. Alec bent their warp coordinates. They warped into a dead sun, the entire fleet, gone in 14 minutes. No survivors, no distress calls. Only silence. The Apex, the most feared warriors in the galaxy, had just been deleted. The news spread like wildfire, and with it came collapse. 5 neutral species withdrew from the assembly overnight. 6 council members issued public denials of their vote to target. Earth. The Varnari Council's capital, world Shalane, put up a planetary shield for the first time in 2 centuries, but it wouldn't matter, because the Halo Gate was now online, and it had a target. Silas watched as the weapon hummed to life. The ring was 20 kilometers wide, floating in deep space. It's powered by raw plasma cores and quantum field anchors. One end pointed at a dying star in the Laxer belt, the other pointed directly at Shalane, the jewel of the Varnari Empire. Once activated, the gate would tear open, linking the 2 stars for just 40 seconds. That was all it needed. The Varnari knew it was coming. They sent peace offers. They sent apologies. They even offered access to council seats, power, control, influence. Silas listened to none of it. He stood beside Alec and said quietly, "We gave them peace. They gave us fire, and we give them back what they gave us: justice wrapped in a sun." The Halo Gate fired. There was no sound in space, but the scream that followed echoed across history. A stream of burning plasma, star matter, and radiation flooded into the Shalane system. The planetary shield held for 7 seconds, then failed. The capital was gone in 12 by the time it was over. 2 billion Varnari were dead. Silas didn't celebrate. He watched the death of a world with a cold, steady gaze. Alex stood beside him, unreadable. "Did we go too far?" someone asked quietly. Silas didn't answer at first, then turned. "No," he said. "They went too far. We just answered." Now, the entire galaxy was burning with a new fear. What if the humans don't stop? What if the child keeps growing? What if the Retributor is building a second gate? They were right, because the second gate was already halfway finished, and its target unknown to everyone but Alec, and he wasn't telling. He never saw Earth, never heard our songs, and never stood beneath our blue sky, but inside him lives our rage, our pain, our memory. He is not just our weapon, is what comes after us. The second Halo gate was nearly complete, but this time no one knew where it aimed. Not even Silas Ward. He watched from the war deck of the Retributor, arms folded as drones moved around the massive ring, fusing its final quantum anchors. The weapon floated just outside the edge of dark space, far from any star charts, in a region no one had traveled in 100 years. And Alec, the child who now controlled the Terran AI, the Retributor, and the last remaining pieces of humanity's fire, stood in perfect stillness beside him. "Alec," Silas said softly, "what world are we targeting?" The child didn't look up. He simply whispered, "The one they haven't shown you." 3 days earlier, inside a stolen council databank, Alec found a locked file. A file labeled Operation Seed Vault. It wasn't a Terran vault. It was a prison. A place the council never admitted existed. The file showed that when Earth was destroyed, some humans survived, not in colonies, not on ships, but in cryogenic vaults, stolen and taken by the council. Hidden on a dead world, used for experiments. The council feared Earth's legacy. So they decided to study what made humans different. What made them fight harder, adapt faster, love deeper, and burn hotter than any other species. They kept children in cold storage, used some, dissected others, modified a few. It was worse than betrayal. It was harvesting. Silas stared at the screen, fists clenched. "How many?" he asked. Alec's voice cracked for the first time. 4,000. Most under age 12. Frozen. Forgotten. One of them was my sister. Silas couldn't speak. He didn't need to. Alec's decision was already made. The second Halo gate would not be used as a weapon. Not yet. It would be used as a wormhole bridge linking the Retributor directly to the prison world, bypassing all council defenses. There would be no warning. No build-up. Just arrival. They called the planet ULS Eras -3. No atmosphere. Surface uninhabitable. But deep below, buried beneath kilometers of rock, was Cryo Vault Zeta, protected by ancient Varnari tech and assembly gun platforms. No ship had ever landed there. No one had ever escaped until now. The Retributor emerged through the halo. Gate like a god tearing open the night, it came in silent. Deadly, Alec shut down the defense satellites in milliseconds. Their AI cores screamed once, then went quiet. No missiles. No shields, no chance. Silas led the first boarding team. They entered through the old freight shaft, melted the locks, and descended into darkness. The hallways were old, cold, silent. And then they heard it crying. Tiny, faint, human vault doors opened. Stasis pods lined the walls. Hundreds, thousands, each one with a name, each one human. Some had been tampered with, opened, altered, shut again. Some were missing, but most were intact. And then they found her pod number 4029. Subject, CIELA status. Inactive biomatch sibling Alec walked toward her. He didn't cry. He placed his hand on the pod. "She was taken before I was born," he whispered. "I never met her, but I know her. I always knew her." Silas said nothing. There were no words. They retrieved every cryopod, loaded them into transport decks, shut down the entire vault, burned the research files, and left only a beacon. "You stole our children. We stole them back. There will be no third chance." As the Retributor returned through the gate, Alec made his final choice. The Halo gate, now empty, would not be left standing. He programmed it to target itself, folding its two mouths inward until it crushed its own frame. The collapse echoed across deep space, creating a singularity spike that burned itself out forever. The gate was gone. Weeks later, in a hidden sector, near the shattered Earth system, Silas watched the pods being opened one by one. Children, teens, some who'd been frozen for decades. Many didn't speak. Most just clung to the light. But they were alive. Humanity was alive. Alec didn't stay on the Retributor. He stayed planetside with his sister and the others. He didn't speak much anymore. He had done what he was born to do. He had avenged a planet he never saw. He had punished the stars. And now, he would protect what came next. Silas stood with him one last time. "You did more than any admiral, any soldier, any weapon," he said. "You ended it." Alec looked up, and for the first time in days he smiled. "I didn't end it," he said. "I reset it." Epilogue. The galaxy never fully recovered. The assembly broke apart. The Varnari Empire collapsed. Species that helped the betrayal faded into hiding. But human whispers remained. In barrooms, they spoke of the Retributor. In hushed tones, they remembered the boy who burned a fleet with his mind. And in every corner of the stars, they learned one lesson: never cross Earth. Because even if you burn the planet, you will never kill the fire.